Hey guys, welcome back to Token Tech. Today I want to talk about the 5600 XT. So the 5600 XT is AMD's newest Navi graphics card that's coming in right about the $300 price point, 280-ish to about $300. That's where we're going to see these models. There's no reference design, no blower style, just AIB partner cards with their dual fan and triple fan and all that stuff designed. So no issue with cooling or anything like that, and you should be able to find those at MSRP. Now, the big thing that's going on today, after watching a couple reviews, which I recommend you doing because this is not a review. I don't have one and I'm not going to show any performance results, but I want to talk about this card. But definitely go check out people like Gamers Nexus and Hardware Unbox for really nice, unbiased reviews on these graphics cards. The performance, honestly, seems to be pretty good. Now, at that price point, you would say, well, wouldn't you compare it to the 10, or sorry, the 1660 Ti? However, the 1660 Ti is kind of, how should we say, irrelevant. And so really you should compare this to the 1660 Super because it's almost the 1660 Ti but cheaper. And well, this the RTX 2060. Man, these I feel for these people. These names are hard to say. Anyways, the 2060 Super, right? Why would I compare it to that car? That car MSRP is $350. Well, it's because right before this launch, Nvidia did what they should do, which is drop the price of the 2060 to about $300. What this does is it makes it now compete with the 5600 XT, and for good reason after watching the reviews. So the base level of this card definitely beated the 1660 Ti. Definitely beat it, and for sure beat the 1660 Super, but did not beat or come close to the 2060. Well, before the release, AMD launched a BIOS update for these cards, which increases their performance. It basically does a factory overclock, increasing the performance 10 to 15% depending on the game. Now that's a lot for an overclock. An overclock typically will get you between 5 and 10%, so getting 10 to 15%, that's a lot of performance left on the table. So how is this even possible? And the reason for this is something known as product segmentation. If you look into it, you'll find that the core on the 5600 XT is the same die that you will find on the 5700, meaning it's a 5700, but it's downclocked and it's given a smaller memory bus to limit its performance. Also, it's given a less power budget and things like that. All of that means it is worse in terms of performance than the 5700. However, because of the 2060 dropping in price and them having to compete with it, they're kind of now also competing with their own product, the 5700. The 5600 XT, now after the new BIOS release and having a, more power to play with, having a higher TDP, having a higher clock speed and all that good stuff, and overclocking the memory, all in the BIOS that is, you don't have to do anything, now it performs very close to the 2060. It performs very close to the 5700, all for around $300. I'm not going to say 280 for that because I think the ones that are the base MSRP non-factory overclocked models are not getting the BIOS update, which maybe you could do on your own. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But I know the overclocked factory overclocked versions, they're going to be like 290, $300. Those ones will have the new BIOS, and that means you will get this performance increase. So around $300 is what we're looking at here. Unfortunately for Nvidia, the $300 2060s from Nvidia and from EVGA are both out of stock. So the cheapest thing for anyone to buy from them is around $330, which at that price puts it, in my opinion, in a different price category, and means that you should look at it a little bit differently than you should look at the 5600 XT. Now the performance increase over the 1660 Super is enough to warrant the price. I totally believe so. I think that the price it's asking is totally worth it now with the BIOS update than the 1660 Super. Now, if you don't have that kind of money, you only have $230-ish, then yeah, go for the 1660 Super. You don't have the money to spend. But if you have around $300, the 5600 XT might be the card for you. Now, I do think we should take a few other things into consideration, right? One would be feature set, and although AMD does have a quite, big library of features it offers, like anti-lag and image sharpening, and Radeon Chill and all those things, it does lack ray tracing, which I don't have ray tracing. I have a 5700 XT, right? And I don't think I even have any games Well, that's not true. Shadow Tomb Raider does support ray tracing. I do have that game, but other than that, I don't own any games that have it. But if you do, and you've been dying to try out ray tracing, and you have $300 to spend on a new graphics card, well, the 2060, if it comes back at $300, could be the card for you. Now, it is an entry level card for ray tracing, meaning you're not going to get that great performance. So, is it even worth mentioning? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there that is a feature that they have that AMD doesn't right now. Although I don't think it's really that strong of an argument to make. The argument I would make is the streaming capabilities. The encoder on the Nvidia graphics card works really well with OBS and X264, I believe is what it is, and that allows you to stream to Twitch and have amazing quality without losing really any performance at all. It's fantastic, and having a 2060 that can do that, if you want to stream, that's a good feature. Yes, these cards do have an encoder, but for whatever reason, the software side of it doesn't seem to work that well, doesn't play that nicely with OBS or X264 or whatever it is. So unfortunately, it's not as good when it comes to streaming. Moving along from that, uh, probably the best thing that I can promise you on NVIDIA that I can't say for AMD is driver stability, where the drivers on NVIDIA look like crap, but they work. Where the drivers here look all pretty and polished. They just did that with the new 2020 release. However, they aren't as polished. They do have a lot of bugs. Yes, it was worse a month ago, but it has gotten a lot better. But it's still there. There's still driver bugs. If you don't believe me, go check out Gamers Nexus. They have documented many of these bugs in their newest review of the 5600 XT. In which case, it's hard to make a recommendation. And I totally agree with Steve from Gamers Nexus that although the performance and the hardware of this card are very good, and I would make me want to wholeheartedly recommend it to people, if I did that and then they had black screens, stuttering, drop clocks, fan speed issues, blue screens, crashes, all different things like that, well, it would make me look bad, and I feel bad that they have to deal with that. And if that's not enough for you, go and look on Reddit. Look at the AMD subreddit. You'll see tons of people who are AMD fanboys complaining about how bad these drivers are. And then go to the Nvidia subreddit and you'll see so many people there posting their new graphics card because they sold or returned their Navi graphics card because driver instability. Okay, now I'm not saying you have to run out and buy an Nvidia card, no, but I'm saying is that if it's hard to recommend any Navi card right now because I know firsthand, because I have one, the drivers aren't that stable. So if you have to buy a graphics card and you don't care about Nvidia or AMD, and you can get a 2060 for $300, I'd probably recommend that over the 5600 XT. However, that doesn't exist right now. The only ones you can get around $330, and I think that's expensive enough that it doesn't really warrant the price. So in that case, I would still recommend the 5600 XT, or just to wait for the drivers to get better before buying anything, because you don't really want to buy anything on a promise, whether it's ray tracing or driver stability, because maybe they can't figure it out, maybe there's an issue with the silicon, and you just have to buy another generation to get stability. I don't think that's the case. I think they can figure it out, but, don't ever buy on a promise. Anyways, let me know what you think down below. Would you buy a 2060 for $300, or would you get a 5700 XT for $300? And yes, you can totally find 5700s and maybe even an XT for down and around that price if you look hard enough, or if you look on the used market. Again, people are dumping these cards because of the driver instability, so you might be able to find one for a good price. But if you had to buy new and you had to buy MSRP, we'll put that in air quotes, for around $300, what would you go for? 5600 XT or a 2060? Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one.